Thank you, Moody. Thank you, thank you. Great, great introduction. That's for when I get thirsty. Hey, welcome to the Power of Paintings. Today I will be talking about how I used real paintings, existing paintings from the public domain to solo develop and self-publish my first 2 indie games. So let's get started. Oh yeah, I have a clicker. Bam. So my name is Thomas Waterzooi. This is Waterzooi, or Waterzooi. I think most Dutch people kind of know it. It's a chicken soup. Sometimes you eat it with fish, depending on the region. It's from Brussels and Ghent, which I'm kind of from. This is how you make Waterzooi. You can take pictures, no worries. But of course, that's not why we're here today. We're here to talk about paintings, and more specifically, touching paintings, like you see here, and here, and here. Yeah, cats love touching paintings. I used to work at Larian Studios, now way more famous for for Baldur's Gate 3. And then I moved on to work on Hitman at IO Interactive in Copenhagen. I moved back, continued working freelancing for them because my partner was still living in Belgium. And it's around that time, I think I was about 30, when I started, you know, a little bit doubting that these were the kind of games I wanted to continue making in my life. The problem was I couldn't really figure out what I did want to do as an indie game developer. And luckily, around that time, I stumbled upon this thing called Manifesto Rejecta from an Italian game designer called Pietro Riva. And basically, it's a set of rules on how to make games for a new audience, or what he calls a new audience. And what is this new audience? It's adults, first and foremost, that have a lot of adult interests, like art, going to museums, lifestyle, friends, relationships, also the lesser fun parts, illness, depression. But they don't always see games as a medium that address these interests, right? Maybe it's a perception issue. And he says, like, we have to learn how to make games for these people if we ever want games to be perceived as the art form that we all know they actually are. So I'm not going to go over the manifest. Definitely check it out, Manifesto Rejecta. There's also a talk about it on YouTube. But the highlights, for me at least, the things that I took out of it was make short games, short experience. We all have busy adult lives, you know, one setting, 2-3 hours, and then you just go on with your life. Also shortens the production cycle, typically, which avoids project fatigue. Author-driven. Try to tell something, try to be motivated, passionate about what you want to tell in your game. Accessible, and this was a very important one for me. This has many facets, both accessibility in terms of you shouldn't really know how games work to play a game, right? For example, using a controller is already a very complex thing. Playing a first-person shooter, it's very complex. It requires a level of dexterity that a lot of people don't have. But also cheap. And then the third aspect of accessibility is, for me, translated into designing the game for mobile, or with mobile in mind, because, I don't know if you notice, there's more smartphones in this world than people, because there's a lot of people that have 2 smartphones. So technically, everybody has this little gaming console in their pocket. So why not develop something for that? Relaxing, this is actually not part of the manifest, but it's something I added myself. We all lead very stressful lives already. I feel like the games I want to play have to be, and make, have to be relaxing. That means no time pressure, no high skills, which turns back to accessibility as well. And then last but not least, take the sources or the themes of your games from outside of existing gaming culture. So for me, obviously, this became art. And that's how Please Touch Your Work was born. And basically, Please Touch Your Work revolves around the idea or the fantasy of what would happen if we would actually touch the paintings, something that's usually not allowed, of course. To make it even more harder on myself as a beginning indie developer, I used a methodology, restrictions. Restrictions boost creativity, they always say. So I took on this approach called visual first design. I don't think I invented this, but anyway. So I would take an iconic painting, a Mondrian painting, or from the style this time. I would generate it procedurally. I think most people know what procedural is. And then, only then afterwards, I would add gameplay. So that's a bit the opposite of how a lot of game developers work. They start from a mechanic. And if possible, I would also add a little bit of story, because I like good stories, I like movies. I think I just wanted to make interactive movies or something. Yeah. I'm not a writer, but you have to start somewhere. And this resulted in 3 kind of mini games, each 1 hour, each based on a painting of Mondrian. But let me tell you a little bit about how I got there, because the road wasn't easy. The first one, it kind of came fast. So I generated these compositions in red, blue, yellow, the paintings that Mondrian is most famous for. And I just added a little mechanic. If you touch a square, all the squares around it change colors. And like this, you build out some puzzles. Then I added a story. I followed the Genesis story of the Bible, where God created the earth in 7 days. But I replaced God with us, the people, and the earth with paintings or art. And then gradually you introduce, the colors red, blue, yellow every day of the week. So I had Mondrian, and I thought, okay, let's do some kind of a holy trinity of abstract painters. Let's add Malevich, Kazimir Malevich, and Kandinsky. So I experimented with this kind of black square thing. He was the first guy to just put a black square on a white canvas. Very controversial in Russia. But the best thing I could come up with was this memory-like game. Then there was this kind of, how do you call it, Frogger-like thingy. Crossy Roads, yeah, that's a good point. But again, I couldn't really build this into a full-fledged game. Kandinsky also became a bit of a toy, maybe a little bit puzzly, but just figure out how to put this painting together, and in the end just create a beautiful artwork that looked like a work from Kandinsky. But again, not really something maybe you could build a full-fledged game from. Then I fell in love with Broadway Boogie Woogie, which is one of the works that Mondrian made when he was living in New York. He moved because of the World War II. He died there as well, of a stupid lung infection, I think. Anyway, yeah, you can see kind of the street patterns of New York coming back. Very beautiful. I managed to make this into this, I don't know what genre this is. It's a puzzle game, but you send in this kind of character called Boogie, and he wants to find his love, Woogie, or it's the opposite. Woogie wants to find Boogie so they can boogie woogie. So yeah, kind of this puzzle. The story was also told on the paintings. There was a little Romeo and Juliet story, in the modern setting, how they tried to be together but couldn't. And then, so I had 2 Mondrian paintings now, right? So I couldn't really deviate from the Mondrian or the style aesthetic anymore. But then there was Mondrian before he went abstract, which is the Red Tree. Very beautiful painting. You can already see the primary colors, red, blue, yellow, coming back. And this became kind of this Pictionary experience where you would just get a prompt, you would draw something, and it would generate this tree for you. You would also get judged, but the judging was randomly, totally fucking you up. Also not something for a full-fledged game. And then I decided to take it more easy, just take New York City, it looks like Broadway Boogie Woogie. It was made in the same period. But this is just a maze. It's an infinite maze. And you collect these little dots that form letters of a poem. And this poem was actually an autobiographical poem of my time when I was living in Copenhagen. And I had to leave my partner in Belgium, and how I struggled with that. So a bit author-driven. So let's see how I did in terms of the manifesto rejecta rules. So it's a cozy puzzler. There were hints. I didn't want people to be frustrated. If you want to use the hints, you use the hints. If you don't, you don't. So it was pretty relaxing. There was some narrative. Again, the poem, it's from a personal point of view. And also the relationship with art was in there as well, of course. It was released on mobile. It was premium though. I didn't want to go the free-to-play route, but it was very cheap. I think it was like $3.99, $4.99. So very accessible. Also no prerequisite gaming experience required. 3 to 4 hours gameplay, voila, short. But the production period wasn't short, so I definitely have to work on that. I think I spent 4 years making this game, which is way too long. And I took a topic outside of gaming culture with the extra motivation to bring art to the people, right? Or to inspire these people to actually go visit the museum after they played my game. Fast forward, please touch your work too. Let's check a little trailer. Can I get some audio? Doesn't really matter. Sorry? Ah, yeah. La 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 la. The twitching is just the computer flipping out, actually. It's struggling. That's not how it's supposed to look like. Sorry, this is not my PC. You can pet the dog. Sold! It's a free game. Cool side effect, the glitching. So, what is Please Touch Our Work 2? It's basically Where's Waldo? I think a lot of people know this from our childhood. Meets Belgian painter James Ensor. Meets Monty Python in terms of the animation and the comedy that I tried to put in. You control the skeleton, which is basically Ensor who came back from the grave. But he's a nice skeleton, and he helps people in the world collecting stuff that they lost. And in exchange, they give you passage or they give you another item for another mission. I added this zoom mechanic, and together with this hidden object mechanic, I feel like I kind of reproduced the feeling that you get when you go to a museum and you like go closer and investigate the brushstrokes of the painting, you know. So I'm really satisfied on how this mechanic turned out to recreate this museum experience. There's also a little bit of narrative. There's this mysterious blue-headed guy who keeps ripping apart, destroying paintings, and you then have a mini game to patch up these paintings. There's other mini games to kind of, you know, alternate between the hidden object gameplay, so you don't get sick of it too fast. But let's talk a little bit about the process behind this game. I collected a lot of paintings, and so made more than 800 paintings, and I chose 83 of those. How did I do this? First of all, Wikimedia Commons, very cool website. You can find a lot of stuff. It's public domain, by the way. It also shows you that it's public domain. That's very cool. You don't have to pay a lawyer to figure this out. But in case you want to know the rules anyway, in Europe, basically, the author or creator has to be dead for more than 70 years. That means everybody who was born before 1955 is okay. In the US, however, it's a bit more difficult. Everything before 1923 is okay. And then there was this strange period between 1923 and 1977 where people had to actually physically go to the copyright office to prolong their copyright. And a lot of people just didn't realize this and didn't do this. So you might get lucky there. And then after 77, it's a no-go. By the way, this is not legal advice. I am not a lawyer. Arts and Culture, very underrated website, I think. They really have some cool, super high-res paintings. And there's this tool, Dezoomify. It's a great tool. It basically downloads all the tiles that these websites use to be able to zoom like this. And it creates one big image PNG from it again. So definitely, if you want to remember something for this talk, this is the thing, Dezoomify. Public domain view, very cool website. they show you like the strange part of public domain, let's say. Note the third one from the bottom. It was kind of a brooch that people would pin on their chest to remind themselves of their lovers. You know, you have the eye of your lover on your chest. A bit creepy, but I love it. Definitely want to do something with this, maybe for a next game jam. But definitely a cool website. And then yeah, you can find images everywhere as long as they're public domain. Even if it's a picture, even if it's in a book. Technically, a picture from a public domain image is also public domain. So yeah. Sadly, the photographers don't earn extra money for that. But if you have a low-res image, you can always put it in these AI image scalers. Very good software, Photo AI. Something AI is good for. And yeah, so I had a lot of paintings, as I said. And then I tried to bundle them by theme to create a coherent world, right? Because you want the skeleton to walk through this environment. And you also maybe want to make levels, or I wanted to make levels. Ensor, he lived at the coast in Ostend, a little city village, a little coast village, almost his whole life. So obviously the theme of the sea and the beach definitely came back in his work. But he's also less known for his still lifes, but I really like those. They're a bit more saturated, bright colors, but sometimes very dark topics at the same time. And I think it's the contrast that makes it work as well. So I really used a lot of these paintings. And then I would try to find the story, right? Because you had these characters that needed to find items, or you needed to find items for these characters. One example is Ensor's father, who was known to be a drunk, who was very depressed. So for me, it was obvious that you would have to find bottles for him. But then, of course, there's this kind of old lady I took from another painting, and they were beautiful paintings from the roofs of Ostend that Ensor painted, and I turned them into like a cat lady that lost her cats. And there's also a little bit more stranger things, like a ray fish that just wants to be with his babies, or a funky skull that just wants to have a fruit hat to do some samba dancing. There's some nice samba music that you have to imagine. Voila. So animation. An important part of this game, of course, because the paintings were the paintings. I think the trick is in bringing them to life. But because they're paintings, I feel like you can get away with a lot of stuff. You can just cut out the characters, which is still a lot of work, make them rotate a little bit, flip a little bit, and you already have a very living, vibrant painting, I feel. If I need a little bit more detail, I would use frame-by-frame animation, but still cut out. So I would try to stay as close to the original image as possible to not have to add extra art by myself, of course. And again, the low frame rate, I think it works perfectly because this is like a paint figure. Of course, when you cut out a character, you have to fill in the background. And luckily, by then, there was generative fill of Photoshop. They say it was trained on their own library, so don't shoot me. But it's very good at analyzing the environment and just filling up little patches. So this tool really saved my life as a solo developer as well. The game was fully funded by the Flemish government because they wanted to celebrate Belgium being the president of the European Commission. It changes every 6 months. It's a different European country. And early 2024, it was Belgium's turn. It was kind of a gift, a souvenir to all of the people visiting Belgium to spread Flemish culture. And that's why the game is 1000% free, except on Switch, where I just released it last Friday. I was allowed to do this, by the way. Yeah, I was allowed to. For the cheap price of $4.99. And to round it off, I don't know how much time I have left. A lot of time. 6. Oh, that's a lot of time. I'll just start talking slower. Then I'll add some ASMR. People like ASMR? All the ASMR level, yeah? Raise your hand, other? No? Oh, wow. That's curious. I think you're lying. Yes, yes, yes. So I really love this review. The game did pretty well. It was free, but it did pretty well, all things considered. And this review really struck out for me. I didn't know the painter, but now I'm eager to see the paintings with my own eyes, which was exactly one of the goals why. I mean, the reasons why I started to make these games. I didn't want to compete with museums. That's not my point. Again, it's to inspire people to maybe go check out this work in real life afterwards. These are some results. More than 500,000 downloads, a lot of positive reviews, high scores, and it was even number 13 in the top-rated Steam releases of 2024, which is insane. Because the ratio of positive to negative reviews was so high. I think, of course, people are friendlier because the game is free, but nevertheless, yeah, I was told I should stop doing this. Being so humble, yes, yes, yes. And yeah, I'm showcasing my next game today, all the way in the back in the corner at the Meet to Match area where you had lunch. And this time it's going to be about Edward Hopper, which is an American realist painter from the 60s, who was known for his topics of alienation and isolation, a bit darker themes. So it's gonna be a soft horror, psychological horror experience. Yeah, voila, voila. Please watch Yorick. It's a spin-off. But Please Touch Yorick 3 is also coming. Yeah, that's gonna be, again, like the second one, way softer. But that's, for next year, next talk. All right, I think that's it. Thank you so much. Any questions? Oh, sorry.
What he said.
Yes.
So for the next game, will you again be focusing on Belgian painters, or do you have other sources of inspiration, like the other game you just showed, which was an American painter?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think for the next game I'm going more towards the post-impressionists, so I'm probably gonna do some Van Gogh mixed with impressionist as well, Monet, Manet. It's gonna be a mixture. Like I already did some research. I think it's gonna be hard to make another game about one painter. I was also looking into pointillisme, which is a branch of impressionism, but turns out it's very hard to hide stuff in in pointillist paintings. Yeah, but there's also actually no. There is going to be Belgian painters. So Anna Boch and Van Rieselberghe, lesser known painters. So I'm going to squish them in together with the more known ones, so they can get some credit as well. So yeah, sorry, the answer is yes. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Question right at the back. Oh, left, sorry.
Thanks, very interesting. I was wondering, during the research with all the paintings, were there any paintings that didn't work on a smaller screen, or that you had to adapt or discard because it just didn't look right, or it was too messy, for example?
Yeah, definitely. So, for example, landscapes are actually pretty troublesome because a lot of time landscapes are further in the back, right? Which means some of the trees, for example, are super small. So the hidden objects should also be small, else it doesn't really work. So sadly, since there are a lot of landscape paintings, I cannot really use this, at least not for this mechanic, right? So I've been trying to come up with a new mechanic to use landscape paintings for. And once I figured that out, I'm gonna be filthy rich. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
We have one last question over there on the corner.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so since the first game was more of a like a puzzly game and the second one was more of
Right.
a adventure point and click one,
Exactly.
what was the inspiration for changing the gameplay style for the second one so much?
But every like even the mini games from the first game, right? There's technically three mini games. The gameplay there was already different amongst those games. So I just tried to, like with the visual first design, I start from the painting, right? I don't start from the gameplay. So I don't know if that was your question, right?
Yeah, I just noticed that like the second game felt a lot more gamey in a
Right.
traditional sense than the first one.
No, yeah, true. The first one was way more experimental. I was way more searching as well for these mechanics, and the second one, also the second one was actually made in 7 to 8 months, while the first one took 4 years because I had the deadline of the European Commission actually. So it made me make choices faster, which is a good thing, and I just took over this thing of, yeah, where's Waldo? It's not new, right? It's an existing mechanic, but I just applied it to paintings. So, but turns out that you can still innovate that way, and that's cool. I will more stick to that.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, you can ask the question later.
Oh, was it my turn? Yeah, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
Okay. Just yesterday with the team, we had like a little like talk about like being scared in the creative process, being scared of, you know, the empty paper, and like there's nothing and something needs to be there eventually, right? And with all these small little like trying out stuff, what you showed in the beginning, you seem to be very good at just like sketching out stuff in a quick manner. But I want to, like, how much time would you put into one of these, let's say, smaller ideas that maybe don't lead to anything? How much time would you allow yourself before you say, is this something, is this nothing? I mean, at least you have it in that presentation now, so it's something, obviously. You know, there's a lot of eyes looking at it.
Yeah.
But what's your process? When do you maybe, like, stop with something, and when do you keep going? And obviously, I guess where it comes from is pretty obvious in your stuff because you just have a passion and that's where you draw inspiration from. But
Yeah.
how much do you allow yourself in time-wise?
Good question. Actually, I spent way too much time on the first game. So the answer is, I don't know yet. But in the future, if I would do it again, I would probably limit it to a couple of weeks maximum. But it's true. I work totally different in the sense that I just explore until I feel sick of it, or I don't see it going anywhere else, which is a bad business model, definitely. But it is fun to do. So as long as it's fun, that's the answer. As long as it's fun, I keep continuing. But yeah, I'm not starting from the blank slate because I have the paintings to start for. So that's already a solution, right? You don't start from nothing. So, but I think we have to round off.
We do indeed.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. Thank you so much, Thomas.